bring your foot in. And one last go. Step to the left, look in that direction, arms up, palms back, to the center, and sink. As you rise, look to the other direction, palms back, bring your hands to the center, bring your foot in. Step the other way, look that direction, arms up, palms back. Look to the middle, palms down, and sink. As you rise, turn your head the other direction, palms back. Head to the center, palms to the center. Bring your foot in. And now find hip width, or about a foot wide. And just find the middle of your foot, not too far forward, not too far back. Let your knees be nice and soft. And we're going to put one hand here at the hip, the other hand, bring it up. This is called Windmills. And turn the body round, bringing the hand round with you. Up. And behind, up, behind. Two more. And then the other hand, up the front. Turn behind. Try and keep your knees forward as best you can. And just do whatever you can with the turn. If you can't get your hand all the way up, that's fine. Okay, now we're going to go the other way. So with this hand, we're going to go up the back and down the front. Up the back, down the front. Just go as far as your arm will allow you to turn. On the other side, up the back, down the front. A little bit like a one-handed crawl. So we're going to do that again, but put some breathing into it. So up the front, breathing in, breathing out. In, out. In, out. And then the side. In, out. In, out, in, out, and then backwards, in, and out, in, out, in, out. Side, in, out, in, out, in, and out. Okay. So now we're going to do some work on what's called the 3 areas of the body. So we have a top, middle, and lower in the torso. In Chinese called the 3 jiaos. So we're going to work on the top first of all. So make sure you have your feet nice and steady on the floor, your knees soft. So we're going to bring the arms up, opposite the shoulder. Keep your knees facing forwards and your belly button facing forwards. Breathe in and breathe out and turn the shoulders. Don't move the arms, just let them be moved. Breathe in, breathe out. So we're twisting the spine, massaging the top part of the spine. Breathe out. And doing the top part of the torso. One more each side. Turning the shoulders, twisting the spine, getting all those kinks out of the spine. And then we're massaging the organs in the top third of the torso. The second one, bring the arms up, the opposite, just below the belly button, and we're going to keep the knees pointing forwards and move your belly button. So breathing in, think about moving your belly button round to the left, breathe out. So this time the twist and the turn is a little bit lower, and we're working this part here underneath the ribs. So feel your liver, get a good workout, and your diaphragm. Breathing in, breathing out. Don't push it too far, just go to where you're comfortable and allow the body to move the hands. So now we're going to work on the bottom third. So that's this part here. And what we're going to do is roll forward, putting the chin on the chest and then rolling forward and allowing the head to stretch the back muscles. This is not about touching your toes. It's just allowing the weight of the head to pull the back muscles. Keep the knees soft. And then when we're down there, when you feel comfortable, you're going to imagine as if you were a dog and just twisting your tail to one side and the other side. And then when we come back up, be very careful to make sure you're in the middle when you come back up and that you keep your chin into your chest until the last minute. So you're like uncurling yourself, unfurling, and leave the head to straighten at the very last minute. So and finish. So now we're going to do an exercise just to help clear the body. So we're going to open in like a W shape. So we start off opening, slight pull back here in the pecs. And as we bring the arms up, sink, breathe in, hands over the head, hold the breath, push down. When you get to about diaphragm, then breathe out, stand up and push down. Breathe in. Hold the breath. Breathe out, push down. So in this motion here, what we're doing is we're opening the chest here at the pecs. Breathing in the side. Holding the breath. Feel as if your fingers are going down the spine. Clearing everything. Pushing down, standing up. Breathe in. Hold the breath. Breathe out. Breathe out whenever you feel you need to. Go at the speed you need to. Try and match the movement with your breath, not the other way around. If this is too slow, just go a little bit faster. Imagine your fingers going down side of the spine, just clearing it down. And one last. And we'll finish this session now with a set called Marching While Bouncing a Ball. So we're just going to lift the leg at the hip. Feel as if your knee's coming up. And you bring in the hand, same hand and leg. Don't bring the hand up too high. Just let it go in the same direction as the knee. Up and down, as if the ball was on your knee. And now the fun and games happens when we're going to change from same hand and leg to opposite hand and leg. So this is just trying to use your brain a little bit. Now go back to same hand and knee. Just as high as you can get your knee, doesn't need to be right up. Just whatever's comfortable for you. And then one more, opposite hand and knee. And finish. So we're just going to finish this set today by just relaxing. Find your hip width just underneath the hips. Get your feet solid on the ground. Find the middle of your foot. Not too far forwards and not too far back. Try and feel the whole of the foot in contact with the floor. Start at the top of the head and just relax the head. Relax your jaw, your neck, your arms, your chest, your belly, the back, the hips, the thighs, the calves. Let your hips and your tailbone sink to the floor and the back of your neck stretch up a little. And bring the hands out to the side. Breathe in and out. Sink just a little. In. Out. In. And out. Bring your hands just below your belly button. Breathe in and out. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to Talk at AT, our kind of weekly get together with different people from across the sector, from across the country if we can, convince people to come in. So welcoming today, as always, is Tommy, who's in the kind of square above me today, and then Niall, who's in the square over to the corner. Tommy and Niall both from the Accidental team. And then also welcoming today, Kat Woods, who's in the square beside me. Where is that? Yeah, there we go. We're without Marty this week, who's off doing other live things today, but the intro track, as always, was from Marty Byrne. Later on, we'll have another kind of section, another kind of episode from Dan Leith's review in a rabbit onesie. Yeah, without much kind of further ado, we'll kind of have a kind of quick natter with Kat. Hi, Kat.
Hi there.
How you doing?
Good. I mean, like, how do people do in a pandemic? I mean, I feel like my brain has completely went. Somebody said Swiss cheese to me the other day, and I was like, yeah, that's how I feel. Swiss cheese, definitely. I forget things. Like, I forget silly things that you shouldn't be forgetting, like, on a daily basis. And I'm like, I just don't know what's happening. I don't know how creative I'm being. I think, like, my creativity input is just minus. It's the worst. It's the worst I've ever been.
Because, like, it's social interaction. It feels like, you know, going out to a party or something where you don't know anybody. You're like waiting to pay your groceries. So it's like, oh, hi, hello, just these, please. Wait, it's really weird.
It's that thing of, like, when you see somebody not being as careful as you as well, you're like, oh my God, what are they doing? They could be a super spreader. Why are they not covering their bloody mouths?
It's much
like
worse.
walking along and kind of licking lampposts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or kind of, you know, sneezing on door handles. Oh, darn you. Captain Tom has walked 100 laps of his garden and you're sneezing. Damn you.
It's Colonel Tom now, actually. Rich.
Is he being promoted?
Yes, he's been promoted.
It was captain this morning. That was quick. It was captain on the news article I was reading this morning. But that's congratulations. The country salutes you, Colonel Tom.
Yeah, so it is, like, it's so chaotic. And I do feel like I've got that, I don't know, Donald Trump with his bleach is in the back of my brain at all times. And I'm like, yeah, I should just spray them with antiviral stuff all over the place. I'm like, maybe I should contain their virus. Because I don't have it, clearly.
Are you based in Fermanagh at the moment? Or are you up in other places?
I moved back. I just said when I moved. You see, example of when I forget. I moved back. I actually moved back at the start of September. I think I told you October earlier. I didn't move back. I left London at the end of August. Yeah, so it's been. Do you know what? It's been a bit of a culture shock. You forget things like transport. Like, I don't drive. And I was out in Timor, which is right in the border, out in my mum's house. And I suddenly realised why I don't live with my mum. 2 weeks of it was enough. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why, right, need to leave.
It's not just pandemic brain. It's we've forgotten the old harsh realities of living with one's parents.
It's just like a Christmas. I think you're on that. You know, whenever you come back, you're on that romanticized. Everything needs to be perfect. Everyone's doing that superficial 2D from the teeth out chat to each other. And then you don't need to do that anymore whenever it's not an occasion. So then you're like, oh my God, you're just really annoying me. No, I don't want to watch Coronation Street every night. No.
I find there's a 2 week limit, and then after 2 weeks it gets tense, you know?
It's tense. It's that I heard a really good phrase about I've got an allergy to family interaction. I said, that's really good, actually. That's really good. I have that a little bit. sometimes.
Yeah,
They could
I
be
think
listening to
we
this.
can all
I'm very
relate with
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will, if I'm talking to my parents, my face will get slowly more pink and swollen, and I'll have to stab myself with an EpiPen in order to keep going. That's why I'm isolating in Belfast and not in Ballymun. Hi, Mum!
Yeah, there's a good chance that most of our parents are possibly watching. Yeah, for those whose parents are au fait with the internet, my dad's just discovered YouTube and how to broadcast on it, which is hilarious.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Unfortunately, he has twice as many subscribers as we do.
Well, yes, his is I'm not gonna name drop his church. I don't believe in such things, but yes, he's broadcasting on behalf of his church every Sunday. The good religious man that my father is. Cough there for a wee second. No virus. So yes, he's probably got more subscribers than we do, and has an average viewership of much higher. Yeah, I won't be jealous.
That's where you need to pinch his audience for all your theatre stuff going forward.
Yeah, Tommy, do you want to start preaching from Fermanagh?
So for anyone who doesn't know, Kat is the writer and director of loads of really interesting, great plays as Killymuck and The Thieves, which were at the Bunker Theatre. Were they both last year?
So, what year was this? 2020.
Because I saw.
Why are you asking me about dates?
I saw Killymuck at the Bunker. I think it was either last year or was the end of the year before.
It was actually last year, but it first went on in Edinburgh in 2018.
Yeah.
Then we had it on at the Mac and other places that my brain doesn't work. And The Thieves was actually it was a short film and sound installation curated by an amazing director called Kat Shoebridge. She's just incredible. And she wanted to do something about the Bunker closing, because the Bunker Theatre is sort of like an underground venue in London. As you know, you've been there. Sorry, some people haven't. And it got closed down because they're making it into flats, which is it's just horrific whenever things like that happen, because it was an avenue for people like me and for underrepresented voices to have a platform on the London stage. And now it's gone. It's kind of that question, well, where do we go? What do we do? Who will platform us whenever major theatre spaces stay safe and play to the money crowd, which still happens.
That's exactly the same thing that happened to the theatre space I was running. It's been knocked down now for a luxury hotel in Shoreditch.
Yeah, that's right.
But that was probably around the same time that was happening, because that was one of the big things I was doing in London, and then moved back after that. It's probably around the same time that the Bunker as well. But was The Thieves, was that originally always intended to be like a filmic piece, or was it going to be a live show as well? I remember.
So what it was it was an installation. So it was always going to be some type of video platform, but within the theatre space. So it was the Bunker only actually closed. It was due to close at the end of March, because I had two things on at the Bunker, a piece called Victim Impact Evidence, which I was going to take to the Edinburgh Fringe this year. Obviously, if I got the funding for it, beg, borrow and steal on that account. So both of those got cancelled. But because The Thieves was already filmed, they quickly turned it into an online kind of a thing. But it wasn't originally supposed to have that platform. It was supposed to be in the actual space. And I don't really know how she was going to present it, but it was to be on the stage. Quite immersive, I think. So I was lucky enough to have had that filmed, because for some reason I haven't filmed any of my work.
I was thinking that as well, because I was going to get in touch with you to see if there's anything that you sort of doing this, and I've got other friends that are filming stuff and contributing stuff about, maybe, because I know that you had Belfast Boy, which was sort of a monologue piece as well. So things like that might translate quite well into film. Yeah,
because it's sort of like I can remember we got my actor when we took it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, Belfast Boy, it was received really well. We were really lucky with it. And it was hard because it was my first time presenting at the Fringe. And we sold out. And we got at the Fringe, we got 6 5-star reviews and we won 2 awards. And I was like, oh, what are people talking about? This is so easy. And then the following year, I was commissioned to write a play called Wasted, about consent. And that was 2015, so it predated me too. And it was just a case, we were just a year too early for that conversation. People still were so fragile about being honest with sex and consent that facing it head on in a small, confined theatrical space, I guess, and being confronted with your truth was just not, it wasn't, people just weren't ready. Some people were and were open about it, but it got mixed reviews. We didn't get anything lower than 3 stars, but whenever you're used to you just automatically think, oh my God, I'm so stupid. What am I doing? I can't write. Everyone hates me. Everyone hates this. I'm going to go and dig a hole and lie there for eternity. I'll never write anything again, even though that's just normality. But because Belfast Boy was received so well, and because of the title, I think we had a lot of older people come to Belfast Boy. I guess expats living in Scotland, living in Glasgow and Edinburgh, thinking that it was about George Best and bringing their husbands, and then their face.
Football fans.
Yeah, it's just that is not what it's about. But coming up to me afterwards saying, we went with this preconceived notion of what we thought the piece was going to be about, and you have opened up our eyes to a world that we didn't realise existed. Or they did realise existed. They just, you're not immersed in it, so you other it. So I think that was something that opened up massive conversations. But also you can sell out a show in Edinburgh if you've got that was a 35-seater space, and I made we were £5 a ticket, and I made £1,000 loss or something because he didn't understand the financial side of Edinburgh. He didn't get it. No one had said, listen, you need to be pricing your tickets at £10 to make sure you don't make a loss, or you need to be pricing them at £9. Even though all of my work, I try to engage the underrepresented community that I come from, which is the benefit class, and it goes against my core values to overprice tickets. But when you're paying for it yourself out of waitress and wages and having worked 60-hour weeks, Tommy, you know what it is. In London, you put your graft in to get the money to present your work. And then you're making a financial loss, even though it's successful in terms of reviews and in terms of awards and where it goes next. It's just a massive kick in the teeth.
Yeah, it's one of those big things, the whole finance side, that people don't quite understand. Just how difficult it is, a 300-seat theatre, a 30-seat theatre at £5 a ticket, can't pay anything really back to cover those kind of costs. It's one of those fascinating things that when people kind of slag off the theatre industry for charging £25 a ticket in the Lyric, or £70 a ticket in the West End, understanding that kind of the wages involved for even to make minimum wage on the theatre whenever you're doing small productions that sell out, if you're lucky, sell out 30 tickets a night, if not more. It is so difficult. I do wish people would understand those economics better.
And that's why we have the danger of theatre becoming solely an elitist platform, because you do need to come from a money background to get your foot in the door. Otherwise, it's just such a slog. I've been doing this now since I was in McGee on the drama course there back in 2004, 2005. And then I moved to London. I was in London for 10 years. And when I moved to London, I came out from being a director, living in the Maiden City, and having a good audience base to come to my shows. And again, that came from working in restaurants. Working in restaurants is great because you can make people come to see your plays, and you do have a good core sort of like audience base. And then I moved to London, and I had to start at the bottom. And I mean, I was begging for jobs in the theatre, and people were just ignoring me. And I was like, no, but I've got this experience, and it translated as nothing. And it was really difficult. And I think people don't understand the outside graft that goes in. So I had to get like a full-time waitress job because rent is so expensive in London, and you can't rest on being self-employed because it's ephemeral. It doesn't, you're going off your last wage packet at all times. And sometimes you just, like, I'd say for the first 7-8 years, I didn't get any pay at all. I wasn't getting commissions. Even though Belfast Boy was successful, I had a play called Dirty Flirty 30. I remember being asked to take it over. And of course, I didn't know how to price anything because you don't really learn that whenever you go to, you do your degree or if you specialise at drama school. The financial stuff is something that they don't really lean towards as much. Maybe they do it more now, but back whenever I was training, they didn't. And I was just so stupid with the way that I planned it. Like, I was taking an actress from London to go and do like 2 nights in Enniskillen. And it was just so stupid. Like, we didn't make anything. I had to pay out money to, because when I budgeted it, I just did the flights and I didn't do anything else. I was, I don't know, maybe I'm just not. I didn't do like the transfers. I didn't do like, my mum lives in Timor, which is 20 miles out of Enniskillen. Like, taxiing in and out back then was 20 quid. It's now 40 quid. So like, I didn't do any of that kind of like planning. But it was, again, and it was successful. I remember we sold out because tickets were so cheap. There was like 100 people came to see it or whatever. But tickets were £5, and then it went to nothing. So it was like, we can't actually pay each other at all. So that, I think people don't really understand that whenever they come to see something. Whereas I find people are more willing to pay a tenner at the cinema.
We've had those discussions as well. And when I started doing running events in London, I'd seen it done before, like a pay what you can kind of system. And we started originally doing stuff like that. And it was the same thing. Like, we'd put in sort of 2.5-3 weeks of work to organize this event and to get it off the feet and get people involved and get people interested. And you would have someone at the door asking for donations, and you'd be lucky if you made £6.
Wow.
That was like, it was just, but that again was the same thing. Like, we didn't understand how to value sort of what and the effort that we put into doing the shows. Obviously, then we had to start charging, and at the same time we charged, maybe the maximum was £5. And again, we still weren't covering our time. We weren't covering like any fees or any sort of expenses or anything like that. It was just something to do to give people an opportunity. But again, like, you don't get taught that. And I was thinking what you were saying about the barriers to entry as well. When we were going to, obviously, uni and drama school, like, now if you are doing the same courses, it costs 3 times as much and to get the training.
And that's it. And I think that my fear with coming out of this pandemic is that theatres are going to play the money ball. We see it with how, I'll not name drop because I might want to work with them in the future. We see how some theatres have been active online. There's stuff coming out in particular in England, and they've rolled out the big guns. Like, you've got actors there that have come off movie sets or have come off like long-running TV shows. So the trickle-down economy network of giving those theatre jobs to up-and-coming writers or up-and-coming actors is going to be kind of wiped out because they need the money. They need to survive themselves. So they're going to pull in the big name to pull in the audience. So my fear now is that for somebody like myself who has like no financial No savings, no financial backing, monetary backing from like family or a family network that can support. We're going to take 10 steps back in terms of progress, in terms of getting benefit class and working class voices back onto the stage, because we were making some progress. I find Northern Ireland hasn't really addressed the class issue, which is really, I find it really sad. We're still not really aware that there is a massive class divide in terms of access to theatre. Even like going into a space, I had no theatre growing up because we couldn't afford to get there. We couldn't afford to get a taxi to get there, let alone pay in. So whenever you live on the cusp of somewhere, and you don't have access into the main city centre, you're excluded from the get-go, yet theatre is supposed to represent society, but it does tend to skew and only represent a certain portion of society at times. And I feel that Northern Ireland still does that. Because I would say, and I'm speaking for myself, obviously, because I don't know any other form of oppression, but as an oppressive factor, money is one of the main things in my life that has sort of like slowed down my progress within theatre. And I look towards my peers that are, that have started out on the same footing as me, but they have like their own flat in London, and they don't have to work 60-hour weeks in restaurants to pay the rent. They're like, it's like I'm here and they're just doing this. Maybe they're just better writers than me, but like could argue that. But I feel like whenever you're so exhausted all the time and you just don't have, you've just lost your kind of passion a little bit, because it's just such a slog all the time, and you're constantly fighting to get your voice heard, and knocking the doors, and then like moving back now I'm back to where I first kind of was whenever I was in London. I'm still knocking the doors going, guys, something needs to change, something needs to radically change, because there is a clique in Northern Irish theatre that needs to be fractured and it needs to be broken, and you need to let other voices in. Otherwise, our theatre is just representative of a small portion of society. In saying that, some people have been very kind to me. And I do have a couple of commissions, one with the Mac and one with Tinderbox. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Edit that bit out.
Well, edit out later,
yeah. Sorry, Kat, go ahead.
No, you go, because I will just chat for you.
No, I was just going to ask if anyone's read, like, whenever you're talking there about money and about, being so focused on that, it halts your... Has anyone read Keep the Aspidistra Flying by George Orwell?
No.
Exactly what you're just... I read it a few years ago, but it just came back to me there because the main character's a writer, and he's trying to be... He gives up, like, the promise of, like, a career to write, but because he's so poor... He doesn't do anything. He doesn't write in the book. He just obsesses about money all the time. It just goes on for 200 pages, and then at the end he essentially gives up because the odds are so stacked against him. It's really grim. It's like my friend gave it to me, and I was like, well, I don't see how you expected me to feel good after reading this. But it's a very good book. You should check it out. But it does. I don't really have as much experience of this because I'm relatively new to the theatre world. I only started accidentally in December. But I do know that working I haven't had to work 60 hours a week in London. But I would agree that that kind of work, when you're trying to pursue something that requires like a lot of thought, people don't really see that. It seems kind of seems kind of frivolous. Like, if you're not actually holding something in your hands that you've made, there's so much beyond that outside in the background, I
think I had to, we did Belfast Boy, I was just about to tell you this before we went live, and an amazing actor, Sean Blaney, was in it. We got asked to do it as part of, there's a a drama school in London called Mountview, and there was a guy came to see one of my plays, and he asked me did I have a monologue, because he was doing the producing, a master's in producing, so he needed a monologue to produce. And then he asked me would I direct it, and I was like yeah. And we got Sean Blaney, who is from Belfast. Is he from Belfast? He's from Antrim. I hate getting people's places wrong from Northern Ireland. You're like, what are you talking about? Stop talking about. And there was one morning, it was literally the day before the play went out, and I was on a double shift in work, which is anything between 12 to 15 hours, say. And I was opening the shift, which meant I had to be there to start cleaning at 9:30. So like, you know, mopping and sweeping and cleaning tables. But I needed to do a rehearsal. And so we had to go in. I had to ask my boss at the restaurant, could we go in and rehearse in the restaurant? This was a British Indian restaurant. In the restaurant at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I went in, rehearsed, and then did that double shift. But the chefs were coming. And Belfast Boy is mad. And he's doing this. There's like this dance thing in the middle of it. There's like a wee dance break, and it's 2. And I had my laptop with me, and I was playing the sound. And we were rehearsing his dance sequence. And he was just saying, like, it's sort of like an amalgamation with Madonna and Britney and I think Whitney Houston is the 3 singers. So he had that blasting for a bit, like, and I had it hooked up to the speaker in the restaurant. And these like Indian chefs were walking past going, what the hell, cat? And I've got this guy just dancing in the middle of the restaurant with all the tables pushed back, and he's just rehearsing me, look, hello, this is what I want to do. And then having to go and go out of that director mode straight into waitress cleaner mode. So it's like you're living these 2 different lives. But it is such a tough industry to be in whenever you don't have that financial backing. And I think that I'm not asking for handouts, I am. But whenever you're trying to, like, before we did Killymock, before we brought it to the Edinburgh Fringe, I was working in that restaurant. So I used to work 4 shifts, so 4 double shifts. So I would have 3 days off. So then I could write, produce, direct, and stage manage my own play. Wasted, I have another play, The Wasted, the one about consent. It got invited to America on a tour. So I was rehearsing it at the same time as I was doing Killymock, and the same time I was working full time to get the money to go to Edinburgh. So like I was a mess in Edinburgh. I didn't realise what was wrong with me, but I now look back at it and think, shit, I had exhaustion. I was suffering with exhaustion. That's why I was really snappy. I wasn't myself. I was just this other person just going around going, what? Don't look at me. But I was just so exhausted. But then I got to go to America and go to Paul Newman's house and stay there. So that was good.
It's a lot harder. A lot harder to realize when that happens. It sneaks up on you, because I had a similar experience where I was working in a cocktail bar till 3 in the morning, and then I had to start. We did this sort of like day-long promenade show. The show itself lasted 8 hours. So I finished in the cocktail bar at 3:30, got home at 4:30, and we started the show at 10 in the morning. So I had about 2-3 hours sleep, then straight into that show for 8 hours. And it does, you kind of get to a point where you do realize, oh, this isn't how life is meant to be.
Yeah.
You do actually have exhaustion or whatever else, burnout, everything, all of these different things. But because you're so occupied with doing something, it kind of sneaks up on you. I find it.
We don't have, like, the arts are, we're so underrepresented in terms of mental health support. Because we're just seen as it's like, I'll get on with it kind of thing. And also we don't recognize it in ourselves, because most of the time we have a side hustle. So it's what you want to do. So whenever you're doing it on your days off, you kind of put it in the back of your head that, but this is what I want to do. I can't moan when I'm in this position, because this is what I want to do and I have to make this work to make it work. So you kind of like neglect your mental health in those terms, because you don't want to be the moaning Minnie in rehearsals like all the time. And like in rehearsals, I never can afford rehearsal space. So like my rehearsals in London for like most of my shows have been in Bethnal Green in a flat I shared with the guy that I wrote Belfast Boy about. Martin Hall is his name. And he's amazing, he's incredible. And he put me up for 3 years and put up with me taking my double bed out of the room, any of the furniture, shoving it into his room, just going in at 8 o'clock in the morning, shoving things on top of him on his bed, going, right, I have rehearsals now in an hour. And he's like, right, I'll leave. And I'm like, you don't need to leave, but like, this is all going into your room. And like, it was a tiny flat. And below us, there was a guy, he's such a sweet guy. And he had a garden as well, the guy below us, but and then the people above. But they must have thought, what the hell is going on in that flat? Because we had plays that dealt with drugs, plays that dealt with consent, plays that deal with sexual assault, sexual abuse, domestic violence, and it's all very wordy and all shouty. So you're like all these different characters, mainly from Northern Ireland, yelling at each other.
But they probably couldn't understand what you were saying anyway.
Probably not. They were like lunatics. I'm surprised the police didn't come round. But yeah, that was interesting times.
I wanted to ask, so like, I know you've only been back for a couple of months, but what do you think the particular trade-offs are of being from Northern Ireland and being based here, or being from Northern Ireland and having moved to London and being based there, but not obviously being in English? Like, because I find that they're very different, but there are trade-offs to both. Don't know any thoughts about it?
I think, like, I was really homesick in London. I just feel London's really lonely. I felt really lonely in London, even though, like, I have friends. But, like, I think when you work on social hours as well in restaurants, you lose contact with people who have actual normal jobs. And then on your days off, you can't meet them because you're doing your theatre work. So you kind of like, you look like the most selfish friend in the world, because you just don't have time to go and meet your best friend who has 2 kids. Like, and because a lot of people have families or whatever, you would have to go to them because they can't come to you because they have children. So you're going across London where it's like 3 hour round trip. You wouldn't really do that in Northern Ireland. I think, as I said before, I really miss transport to theatre, access to theatre. Like, you can go to the theatre for a few pounds in London and it's on your doorstep. Whereas here, living in Fermanagh, I feel culturally bereft. There is nothing. I feel like if you're not in Belfast or Derry, you are not part of the art scene, and you're not included in those arts talks. And that's why I mentioned earlier that it was a bit of a click. It's because you're not in the city, so you can't form those relationships. You can't go for coffee with somebody because you live 100 miles away from them, and you don't drive. I don't drive. I think in terms of, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, you are, yeah.
Have I went off on a rant?
Not at all. I mean, it does kind of bring up it kind of brings up the interesting question, because we're now in a lockdown mode and doing more things online. It brings up the obvious kind of parallel that do you think that would make things more socially acceptable to do online? Have those kind of cup of tea meetings, as I was brought up calling them, via Skype and via Zoom, rather than having to physically go in. It might just open those doors a little bit wider.
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I think that, like, in terms of London as well, everything is London centric. I'm on the BBC writers' room this year 20, which is still good. We still have bits to do. We haven't fully completed it, but it's kind of been shelved because of, obviously, COVID-19. But my agent, when the BBC Writers' Room was announced at a BAFTA event, and we got to sort of like, it was horrific. We had to like network with all the independent producing companies, TV production companies. It was one of the worst things I've ever been at in my whole life. I had to keep going to the toilet to like wipe the sweat from under my armpits. I was like, oh my God, why am I profusely sweating? Like I'd be talking to somebody for a second and the sweat would just come up down my head. It was like, I just do one of these. Oh, hello. Yeah, I'm great. So things like that, whenever my agent would be like, well, the next time you come to London with the BBC Writers' Room, we'll jam pack you with those meetings. I was like, but why can we not just do it online? I don't understand why I can't just WhatsApp call them, because this was before we had the language of Zoom, or like those like other online platforms. And she said, no, it's better to meet these people in person. But since then, I've had a few Zoom meetings with the people that wanted to meet me back whenever I met them at the BAFTA event, where I sweated all over them. So I imprinted my sweat. So maybe they went away. Somebody smells like cat. What is it? But yeah, so and they've been fine. Like I don't get why we couldn't have done that.
Seems to be all of a sudden it's become acceptable. I find with a lot of like, and it's sort of opened access to a lot of these reasons which previously were behind closed doors, and it's sort of frustrating. I'm sure you felt this too, of being like, where was this access before for people like from further away from less advantaged backgrounds and stuff, like now it's taken a pandemic for these people to have access to the things that everyone else has. Exactly.
And I think like for me, I'm loving, I don't know if you're watching any of it, the Dear Ireland, the Abbey Theatre, I suppose online offerings. So it's on 7:30. I just plug it. It's on 7:30. I'm not part of it. I do have a thing with the Abbey though, so you know I have my foot in that door anyway. But so they're doing it like it's a series of 50 monologues and they have 50 actors, and it's absolutely amazing because now we have access to that for free. Which is incredible, and access to incredible writers married with brilliant actors, which you would have had to pay big money to go and see if it was on at the Abbey. I'm not saying like I don't prefer this medium over live theatre. There's nothing like live theatre, but I felt last night for the first time in a long time, because I haven't had access to the theatre here in Fermanagh. Not that I haven't had access to the theatre, like I live quite near the Ardone at the minute and live with my friend, so I could cycle over to it, but they just don't seem to programme things that are representative of things that I want to see, and Belfast is so far away. So it's that kind of thing where you now feel like you're part of an online viewing community, and like I was tweeting about it last night and then people were commenting on it. So you felt like you were, in the interval of a show where you were just chatting to everybody about what you'd seen and like having the crack about it. And it just you felt connected. I don't know, I feel a wee bit connected to the theatre community online, more so than I have felt before the pandemic hit. And I was just isolated on my own in Fermanagh. And I have that t-shirt on now. I was isolated before it was cool.
It kind of brings up though the interesting dichotomy with it's free, so it makes it much more accessible, but it's free because it's from a massive organization who can afford to make it free. So it's that kind of how can small groups who can maybe want to create a much broader reach, the fact that people who have to charge pay what you can shows or £5 a night shows make online kind of experiences and online monetization work for them. It's that kind of thing. If the Bunker is doing their programming online, if that was an avenue, an extra revenue stream that could have then supported them, there's that kind of, it's a really hard balance I don't know if
Yeah.
if there's anything that you kind of think that balance between making it more accessible but also making it pay so that people
Yeah.
can actually make a living off of it.
I think that's where the people like the Arts Council need to kind of step up and step in. There is a sway here as well to give funding to, I guess, organisations that have a proven track record, which kind of like that is where it impinges on the smaller communities and the smaller, I guess, theatre groups that are trying to do stuff online. And then you do have questions with how do you film it? Because I've been asked to film stuff and I'm like, yeah, but I don't have a camera. Like, and I'm like, oh, do I just do it on my phone? Will it look really crap though? Like, it's not going to have the same cinematic effect as something that comes from the Abbey Theatre. And like, even the music that the Abbey Theatre have employed, like, it's incredible. It kind of has that feeling. And I said this the other day to somebody. I don't know if you boys, you're probably far too young, remember Eurovision and whenever Riverdance happened. I remember watching that live and I couldn't even tell you. Like, Ireland won Eurovision that year, but sure, you couldn't even remember what the song was because Riverdance was so good. The interlude was so good that you're like, oh my God, they should have won. But the music to Dear Ireland, it's captivating. There's something just so beautifully Celtic and like, I don't know, but modern. There's something there with that. And obviously somebody like me or you wouldn't be able to pay a composer to do something like that. We'd be there in the background on a panpipe, on a wee whistle,
Yeah. It creates a cycle. I find it a cycle of kind of asking people to do stuff for free.
Yeah.
Because you want to do more, you want to go further, but at the same time, the monetization options aren't there and the funding support isn't there. So you try and give something. You want to be able to pay something to support people to make their work has worth. It should be paid. You know, we can't have a plumber come in and go, well, would you do that for spreading your news about you? You know, the industry is expected to work your way up for free until you can get a wage, and no other industries in the world kind of work like that.
No,
at least very few.
I think that sometimes we have the wrong attitude towards stuff as well. Like, because I've kind of done that. I've worked really hard at another job to create work and have the money to put it on, that's how it should be. Definitely not. Definitely not. I think that if I had the right financial support, my work would have been completely different. It would have had a more professional air about it. I would have been able to like get a set designer, which is always my dream, instead of like knocking two bits of wood together myself that are like, you have to get the lightest actress of all time to like stand on. You're like, please don't stand that, it's going to break. But so I find like the financial divide is just, it's incredible. Like, and I don't think people understand it's from a visual perspective as well. It's not just about paying yourself for your job. It's about what you can have in the space of theatre, like what that provides, your lighting, your sound. Like, sound is everything. Sound like takes an average play to brilliant. I think if there's the right sound, the right lighting, the right set design, and all that costs money. And
that's what makes it theatrical. You know, that's the theatricality of actually making a piece of work. But then there's the kind of underlying things of you're rehearsing in a flat, rehearsing in a flat in London. You know, I remember the first stuff that I did and Accidental did, and the stuff I did in London. We were rehearsing in I think scratches were rehearsed in libraries on the Sunday when the library was closed. You know, there's a level that people don't quite understand that I love the ingenuity of having to battle those kind of circumstances, but it shouldn't be existing in the first place. But at the same time, it shouldn't be
the accepted norm.
No. I mean, it's the kind of thing that we often hear is that we have to be entrepreneurs to make it work. You have to be your own business people, but at the same time, it's hard to constantly be grappling for money and also being artistically, brilliant at the same time, or artistically interesting or engaging or anything. These things don't always work together. So I mean, you've done brilliantly. I'm really excited to hear what you've been going through. So very, very well done.
I'm just being away, Max. I think with the feeds, so it was a curated. There was 6 monologues and it was curated by Cat Bridge. It didn't get Arts Council funded. So we were given like a small fee each to write each monologue. And I gave my fee back because I thought the message of what I wanted to say was more important than getting the fee, even though I was, financially bad.
Yeah.
I was going to say a curse word there, and then that. No, I'll not
You can
alliterate
swear if
that.
you want. I don't mind.
Financially fucked. I was knee deep in my credit card, and I really needed the money, but I also needed to have something online to represent my voice, and I also needed to be part of that. And I wanted it to be good. I wanted the visual to be good. So by giving up my fee, they were then able to do this amazing website, or they put it towards how the design went. And it looks gorgeous. And I'm glad I kind of did that, even though I did need the money. But I think that if I hadn't have come in the way that I did, I probably wouldn't have sacrificed my fee at all.
Yeah.
But because my mindset is still, and I think I do have the wrong mindset. My mindset is always the work first, pay later. And I need to kind of like start to value myself as an artist, because that's where I get imposter syndrome, because I'm doing so much work for free. Then when it comes to placing value on my own work, I doubt myself and I think I'm crap, and I don't think that my voice is valid because I haven't been paid for it. And now I've got a couple of commissions. I'll be honest, I am struggling because I think that I always feel like I'm not good enough to, even though it's such a head fuck, because you fight so much and you claw and you pull and you kind of like beat the doors down and you're like, I want you to commission me, I want you to commission me. And then it happens. And then you're like, oh shit, I'm not good enough. Like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can provide, if I'm as good as they think I am, because I've been really vocal. So I think that's my battle. And being in lockdown, it's really hard having that battle, because you're just in your bedroom going,
Even
I need
from
somebody to tell me I'm good.
From a psychological perspective, it's kind of like we spend all this time sort of training our minds to expect to nothing, and to everything we do make is given back. So you spend however many years doing that, and your sort of psychology adjusts to that fact of life, and then when you do get the opportunity, like you say, things completely change, and it's very, very difficult to change that psychology overnight.
It is. It's kind of like, whenever you've got a crush as a kid and you chase after them, and then they want to kiss you, and you're like, no. What? Definitely not.
We had a few questions here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And like I said before, from a mutual friend of ours. So the first, we have John McCann on Facebook is asking, did you get your bike fixed?
Yes, I did. Right. So the other day, yesterday, I had one of the maddest days in lockdown. So I broke my arm in 2014 and it hasn't knitted properly. See, it's all out of, it's a bit out of place. Basically I went to a hospital in London, and the nurse was so lovely, and she just completely blindsided me with her ancestors from Ireland and asking me, did I know them? And I was like, no, but probably. What are their names? Yeah, I do. So I was like,
Always have to check just in case.
chatting away to her. I didn't even know that she wasn't actually setting me wrist properly. She should have pulled it. That would have been horrific pain, but because it was broken in like 3 places. But yeah, so I had this X-ray, and I was like, what am I doing going to the hospital in the middle of a pandemic? What is wrong with me? But I think like whenever I was chatting on the phone to like the radiographer, she was like so persuasive. I think it's because no one's going for anything, so they're really bored. So I was like, sure, yeah, I'll cycle over. Right, okay, you've got me. So I went over, and on my way over, it's like the crank. I call it the crankshaft. I think I've invented that word, and it's where the
like
pedal.
Yeah.
It's where the pedal joins on. Just came flying off in the middle of the road, and I was just there going, shit, what am I gonna do? And then like I had 15 minutes to get to the hospital, but it is a 15-minute cycle, so I left it to the bone. So I had to run, and then it started to rain, and then and I had like a cycling mask thing on, so I ran in looking like I was about to blow the place up or something. I was like, I've got an X-ray. Where do I go? But yeah, so my pedal came off. I got it fixed where they were not socially distancing in the bike shop. Definitely not. 3 like older gentlemen came very close.
I think a lot of the farmers down here are kind of like they don't care, or it's
just. I think it's like
storming around.
I'm not sure if it's the don't care. It's more of a that'll not happen to me attitude. And it's until it does, until it affects you directly. And I think we do have this attitude. It's the same with how we vote in politics. It's like, does it inherently affect me? No. Should I really take double precautions? Yes, is the answer. Wash your hands. Wear a mask.
Yeah. And that's not so much a question, this one, but Rick Andrews, was this on Facebook, Niall?
Yes.
Yes, Rick Andrews was saying, again, on this sort of like the visual aspects of not having money for shows, a number of actors won't work for nothing, maybe not even being able to afford to. So that again limits your casting choices.
Yeah.
The director's vision if they haven't got the exact look they want. Which I think again fits into that whole thing you're saying about the money doesn't just affect the people.
Yeah.
It affects like the look of it, the feel of everything.
And I think that is really like, I'm really hoping that what comes out of this as well is a change to how we do the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Like, I mean, you're going up against things that are on at their main theatre space, the Traverse Theatre, which have money. They have access, they have the actors, they're able to do like a 2-3 week rehearsal process without doing any other jobs. And they have lighting, they have their in-house lighting and sound, and they have everything. And then you're putting on your shitty little show that you've had no money from, you're suffering from exhaustion, you've got like a set box for your set, which is not what you want because you want a set designer to design something, and you go against them for a fringe first. Like, it's so unfair. There needs to be like a completely different category for underfunded, no funding shows, or minimal funding shows, because you battle for those awards, and they do go to things that look and feel more theatrical. Like, and I just think that it's a bit of a corrupt system, and it needs to be changed. Defies
the point of it being a fringe festival if you have
definitely
finished pieces of theatre.
For sure, and there's a loophole in it as well. Sorry, Tom, I just need to get this off my chest. There's a loophole in it as well. So you have to have your show on. Well, you don't have to have. You can only have up to 6. I'll show 6 because only 5 fingers went up there. I can count. You can only have up to 6 preview performances within the UK. So that doesn't include the Republic of Ireland. So you'll go up against something that David Ireland has for a fringe first. So we did Ulster American, but I think it had a full run in Ireland before it went on. So it's going across with having had an outing for a year on the Irish circuit, and then transferring over to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and then being part of the Fringe, which just seems so unfair. And then that gets a fringe first. That gets the award to go to America or Australia or whatever it got. Like, and it's like, it just makes you feel crap as an artist, like, because you're never going to break that down, because how do you have the power to get that changed, you know?
But that's the same
So
also for across the entire industry. You know, the idea that, you know, from, as you mentioned before, funding, you're going up against companies who've been established for 20, 30 years and having to have the same track record. We've hit that all the time, where we go for the exact same funding as Kibosh and Prime Cut and Replay, and they're the oldest and most, you know, valuable theatre companies. So you, on paper, you can't stack up. And then, you know, across the industry, you, from reviews to audience kind of reactions, you know, the two things can't quite stack the same, and it makes it very, very frustrating. I don't. It's not really a question. I hear you. I completely agree. It's really difficult. It's interesting. We had Edinburgh Fringe people on last week, the team from the Fringe, and there's. Again, coming back to kind of COVID and what kind of it might give, as much as it's taken away, is the idea that the festival and performance can be much, much wider and much more accessible than it is through some of the things that we're currently doing. You know, the idea that the Edinburgh Fringe might be able to, you might be able to be anywhere in the country and not have to pay the accommodation, pay the venue fees, pay the, you know, it's really cheap to get to the Fringe, but then it's incredibly expensive on the back end. It's one of the reasons why we've kind of held off in some of the things we wanted to do, because at some of the earlier shows that we did were 4 or 5 actors, and it's just impossible to take.
You can't do something like that.
You can't. We couldn't. You couldn't afford the accommodation. And we, you know, you can't ask actors to be squatting anymore. You know, it's not like the 80s where Stephen Fry was sitting on a wooden floor, sleeping, you know, 10 feet away from someone else who's peeing in the corner, which I think is one of his stories, if I'm remembering rightly. You know, it's a completely different kind of world, and you can't ask people to do that. You couldn't ask them to do it in the 80s anyway. But it's you know, you want to protect people, you want people to have a good time, you want people to be paid, you want people to have safe places to stay, and it just makes it incredibly expensive. So, you know, I've been very, very impressed by what you've got done at Edinburgh already, with all of that in the background.
That's like, I paid off last year or the year before, took out for Belfast Boy, I had to take out a £5,000 loan, which went over, like, the repayments were like over 5 years, and it was like £109 a month. But it ended up being six and a half grand because of the grant and a half for, like, fees or whatever they were adding on. But it was so annoying, because there was times where I had no work, but I had to still pay that money. Yeah. And I was like, it was just, those were the most stressful times ever, to pay that plus like £700 a month rent. So you're talking like that. London's just so expensive, but because I took a play to the Fringe, and that's how I financed that play. And that's not paying anyone. Like, I didn't pay my actor, and I didn't pay myself for any of the work that I did. But I've always tried to pay for the accommodation, so that then that's not on anyone else, the actor, stage manager, whoever's there. And then what will generally tend to happen is my actor or actress will lease out their London flat, so then they're getting, you know, they've no overheads, so then they're almost getting like a little bit of money, even though it's not directly from me.
Funded by Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of Killymuck, and I wrote Killymuck out of, I was just really, really angry at the system, and Killymuck's autobiographical. It's actually Killymuck. There is an estate in Fermanagh called Kilmaccormack, but this play isn't about Kilmaccormack. It's more about class and social mobility. So Killymuck, in the state of the play, is fictitious. I'm from a housing estate called Cavanlech. Grew up in Benefits. My dad was murdered whenever I was 20, and I wrote about that and about coming from that type of background and then trying to make it in sort of like an environment where class is everything. And even like class and status go hand in hand. It goes hand in hand with your confidence in the room. I have been in rooms with people that have went to better schools than me, or like schools that have been just higher up in league tables, and your confidence just depletes. And I wouldn't be a shy person about coming forward. That's actually my waitress training that has done that, where I will just chat to anybody. But in those circumstances, I become so self-conscious about how I speak, how I'm saying words. Like, I remember one time being in the presence of somebody that had went to Trinity. I was actually serving them in the restaurant, and I just said, "Are yous ready to order?" And it was the word "use," and he just went, "Use, use."
God.
What type of English is that? And I was just there going, "Oh my God!" And I just looked at him and I went, "Listen, if you don't want me to serve you, I will get somebody else." And I walked away from the table. And he came up and apologized to me, and I was like, "I'm not here for that." And I was like, "I have a degree." This is a Northern Irish colloquialism. But like, it's just that ability to make you feel so small in like the matter of seconds, where you just clam up. And I felt that in theatre environments and in rooms where there has been other creatives, and especially as a director, whenever you're dissecting text, sometimes you feel, because you're not filling the space with massive words and you're just cutting to the point, sometimes you feel like you're not clever in that environment, even though what you're saying is the exact same, but you're not just filling it with the thesaurus, or, you know. So I think, like, for me, and then it was really what really frustrated me about Killymuck, and I've written about this on Twitter. We wanted the likes of The Guardian to come see it. Like, it's a left-leaning play. Killymuck is about class, social mobility. It's about the education structure and how that inherently needs to change in order for people like me to succeed. Because it doesn't take into consideration, whenever you do go to school, what's happening in your home life. Why have you not got your homework? Why are you not performing? No one peels back those layers to see why you're underperforming in class. Yet you might have come from an environment where there's domestic violence happening at the weekend, you've had to flee, you're in a safe house, and then you have to go to school on the Monday morning and you've no homework done, and then you're getting punished in school. So that's kind of like what Killymuck deals with. And it's a sort of like a call to arms, and it was my frustration, my anger at the industry, and that's why I wrote that. But when I took it to Edinburgh, again, no, I was a wee bit too early talking about class. Because more things happened last year than they did in 2018, which is good, because I'm always on the cusp of stuff, but just not quite there yet. I'm always just a wee bit premature. So when we didn't get the big papers in, we didn't then get the write-ups that we needed for audience to come in and see it, because no one wants to, like, Edinburgh's a middle-class festival. It has a predominantly middle-class audience base because it is really, really expensive. Nobody wants to, like, the mirror held up against them and
it's worth
why would it
understanding what's not a middle-class festival in theatre.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like, I made a £4,000 loss because, like, the venue was $4,000. We were at Underbelly. It was just so expensive. I thought a PR person would help me. I invested in one of them. They were £2,500. Like, it's mad money. Registering your show is like, you're talking like the guts of £1,000, £500 to put your show into that wee tiny blurb that's about this size, and there's thousands of 4,000 shows or whatever in it. So it is expensive. And I am a glutton for punishment, because I nearly went again this year. I think Corona was for me. I think I brought it because it was the universe's way of saying, "What are you doing?
Slow down.
Stop being addicted to death." Yeah. I think so.
It's one of those big problems that we've had with reviewers in, I think, Northern Ireland. I think most Northern Ireland theatre companies and actors will kind of agree, is that it's incredibly hard to get good reviews in the country. So it often feels like we get cut off
Yeah,
even
you
the
do.
Irish
I've
Times.
noticed that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So you feel
Yeah.
like there's great, fantastic, brilliant work happening from absolutely brilliant companies across the whole province, and yet no one outside. If you have to be like yourself and have to be in London promoting that work for it to be taken, for anyone to take notice of it. And that's, as Tommy mentioned, that kind of choice, trade off between stay home to make your own work or move to London and work 16-hour days and fund, because I don't think some people understand that there's no grant structure for taking work to Edinburgh. There's no real kind of touring structure within that. It has to be off your own back usually. Sometimes some regions have specific accelerator programs. I think East Anglia still has one, because they're deliberately trying to get that kind of work up there. But it's incredibly difficult. I think in some ways the lack of press in the region contributes to that idea that we don't, as a society, a generalization at the moment, but as a society, we don't quite look as far over to the water, over to London as we do, especially when you're coming up. When you're coming up through Queens and through Magee and so forth, you don't look outside of Northern Ireland, outside of Ireland for inspiration and for work and for other kind of things, and that kind of leads to, as you say, that ghettoization of when you're over in London, people forget about you here. Because we're not.
It's so true.
There's a disconnect, and it's weird. I don't know what it is.
Even I've had so I've had four plays that have went to Edinburgh, and there was discussions obviously before the pandemic with the Arts Council about providing some sort of fund. I actually got in contact with Shona McCarthy, who you had on last week, and we had a massive conversation. And I was like, listen, something needs to change. Something needs to change in terms of Northern Ireland, because we have no one supporting us. I gate crashed a Culture Ireland event 2 years ago at Edinburgh. I wasn't supposed to be there. I was mingling with all the big wigs from Culture Ireland, and they were literally like, who the hell is this? And I was like, I've got a play on you, and here's a flyer, going around.
I kind of imagine in my head some type of using the waitress skills as some type of kind of like Mission Impossible style Tom Cruise coming in through the kitchen as a mariachi band involved and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, I've watched too many Police Squad episodes, I think.
I think they were lovely, and they were really they were promoting the shows like No Tomorrow, their own brochure. And I was like, where is the North? Where are we represented? Yeah. Even though Culture Ireland says that it's for like the island of Ireland.
Theatre and I've been doing some interesting work on it, because the British Council, for years, the British Council would have a showcase in Edinburgh for the different regions, and always, but there would be no Northern Ireland. And no one could answer when it was raised the question. So you have England, Scotland, Wales, but you have no Northern Ireland, and they couldn't answer it. So they've done great work in kind of the British Council is now taking much more notice. The showcase is much wider, much diverse. Neve's done a fantastic job at kind of helping push that, and so there feels like there are some doors there. What?
Neve's a Fermanagh woman. You see?
That must be the key.
Neve's incredible. I love her. She's been so helpful with things. Whenever I first moved over, and I was completely lost, and I was like, I know I need to be home right now, because I'm about to have a nervous breakdown or something. So I had to come home just to center myself. I know that sounds really wanky, but I just had to just to realign myself with Mother Nature, and make sure I wasn't tipping over the edge. But she was really, really helpful and really, really supportive and really in tune with mental health needs. But I did have conversations again with Theatre and I and with the Arts Council about fund in Edinburgh, and I was told that because they haven't seen my work, those guys supporting me there was a very slim chance of them supporting me this year, which is mental. I've had 4 plays on. I've had work that's transferred to Finland, and I've had work that's went out and turned to America. I don't get what I need to do there. My work has been now reviewed by The Guardian, Lynn Gardner, and it's all been really positive. It's not they're telling me not to do anything. So it's
you haven't made it all up. on a
Yeah,
CV,
it's not like they
and
just
you've
went,
created some kind of
"Ah."
fake persona just to defraud the Arts Council of money. You know, he's a legitimate artist trying to make more work. You
And
know,
I've had work that's turned to Northern Ireland, like all
yeah,
of the shows, like Belfast Boy, Wasted, Dirty Flirty 30, Killymuck, Mule, they've all come over. Like, it's not like I haven't been given back.
yeah,
It's like,
Or
come
there
on,
hasn't
guys.
been opportunities to see the work.
Yeah, exactly. Cut me a bit of slack here. Like, you just haven't supported me whenever I have been here. Yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting how they work. But in saying that, like, I think Keelan from the Arts Council, I think she's
yes,
doing a
Keelan
brilliant
Curry
job.
Thompson.
Yeah, I think she's lovely. She's really approachable.
Yeah.
I just love her manner, and I find her really, really easy to talk to. Kind of like yourselves, they just blurt at people. People don't know me.
Yeah.
Thinking what
Keelan
the
will be
heck.
on next week. We tried to get her on this
Really?
week, but she's actually inundated with answers and phone calls and chatting about the current support for independent artists from the Arts
Oh, yeah.
Council program
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
released. But Keelan will be on next week to chat about that and other things with us. But I think Theatre and I, Stroke Dance Resource Space, are having an online session. I'll just point people to it now,
Yeah.
might as well. Tomorrow for help around the making applications to the Independent Artist Support Program. So keep a look out on Theatre and I's website for that.
Yeah, I need to do that. I think that, like, the thought of filling out an application form right now is just one of the worst things that you can put yourself through.
I think that was the reaction to it. I mean, I certainly when I
Like-
looked at it, it was like, oh my god, what am I, like, how many layers, how many
Like,
hoops are you
yeah.
going to jump through to
Yeah.
get some financial support? And it is very,
I think-
it's what you said before. There's a mental aspect to it. It's sometimes
Yeah.
a really hard barrier, you know.
And it's that fear of being rejected for something else in lockdown. Like, I've had it happen a couple of times now, and it makes me not want to apply for things, because getting rejected in normal situations. Like, there was one week in London, I got like 10 rejections over a period of 3 days, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And it was all to do with money, and I was just like, oh my god. So I think in lockdown, whenever you get those rejections, it just cuts really deep. Like, the wounds feel like they're gaping all the time, and that you're packing it with like cotton wool, but it's seeping through. You're like, I just can't keep doing this to myself. But I think Keelan has made it very clear that she's there to support and there to talk you through the application process, because I hate talking about money, even though I'm always out with me begging bowl. I hate it. I'm like, I hate getting advice from people, like, to fill them out, because I'm like, oh, really? Right, okay. You want 250 words on that? What? Like,
but at the same time, you're brilliant. Just I'll put that one out there. And other people, you're brilliant too. So just fill it in and get that help. It's there.
That's true.
The Arts Council has
so
some
true.
help finally. Sorry, Arts Council. That was
And
more.
someone has
That
to
was a
get
slightly judgy line for you. But Arts Council has some help. It's come in a timely manner. And please fill in the application that and get those applications in there. Keelan, as I think she said in a video message to people the other day, is looking forward to reading the applications, which I'm sure is not quite true, because God, those applications must be horrendous to read. Not because of the content, but just because of the nature of the
length.
Sifting through it. Yeah.
There's a couple of comments, and then I have one last question, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That's all right. We had some comments. I think these are from Facebook as well. Christine Clark said Catwood's top writer and writer too. Great chat, Cat. Rick Andrews, where can I get a copy of Killymuck for my Irish writers section on my shelves?
Oh, it's on Samuel
French.
They're called something else now. They're called Concord, I think. They got bought out. By Concord. If you Google it, I don't know.
I'm sure if you Google Samuel French, it'll
This
still
is
come up.
why I have no money, because when I do a place for sale, I don't.
They'll have it redirected, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so the last question was from Sally Reese, who is a great supporter of the arts.
Hey, Sally.
My old drama teacher. And her question was, what was the best advice that you were given when you were starting out?
Oh. I think, I'm not sure if it was too much advice as it was witnessing. I did this thing where I went on placement, and I went into various rehearsal processes, and there was this one director, and they were blocked in a scene, and it was the misanthrope they were directing, and the actor was coming in, but he was drunk, and he was to get to a chair, and I just remember putting my hand up because I was there as an observer, and really I became a dog's body. I used to go and get his sandwiches for him and all, and I don't think he thought much of me because I didn't have his same Cambridge education, and obviously I was from Northern Ireland, so I had the big na accent bellowing through the rehearsal process. But I put up my hand and I was like, listen, if he's drunk, there is no way that he would get to his chair. When you're drunk, have had much experience, you would be stumbling. Definitely, where's the light? You'd be looking for, you're not going to go in and sit in a dark room. I was like, get him to look for the light switch. That'll get him into the room. You know, he can stumble. It'll give him a purpose to go in somewhere. Maybe if there's a lamp at the side or something that he walks towards, is that what he's walking towards? Give him purpose. And he took me aside and told me that he was the director and not to vocalise opinions in the rehearsal process, that if I had something to say, to take him aside, because the actors will get confused. And I was like, what? And that was like the one moment where I was like, you're definitely not the type of director that I want to be. I want the process to be a collaboration, which I think the best work that I have seen has come out of a process of collaboration and play. And definitely, like, I would get anyone to chip in. If a scene isn't working, I'm like if somebody's in the background of the room, I'm like, come in and watch this. What's wrong? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Because I think that's what a director is. You're not a dictator. And I think that's kind of the best, not advice, but situation that I was in to teach me what not to do. Yes, experience. That would be the collective word. So that's it, kind of. I hope that answers your question, Sally.
Is there any other questions now?
There was comments from Rick, but they're mostly about how we need to eat the rich. I think they're in that. But I was going to suggest like some kind of battle royale, and our bodies hardened by minimum wage labor would win out, surely. Yeah. Yes, I'm not sure what he's referring to, but it seems like he's definitely enjoyed and he's definitely interested in buying Killymuck. So we've done it. It was.
He says it's on Concord Theatricals or something. That's where they get the script.
That's it.
He's done the Googling for us.
Concord Theatricals. That's it. And Thieves is online for free.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Where was that? Where can people get that?
What?
Is it still in the bunker?
No, yes, it is. It is. If you Google the bunker and where do we go next, that's what it's. The title of the because there's 6 monologues as part of that, so that's the title of the curated film installation, and mine's like 10 minutes long. It reads about 5 minutes, but there's sound.
That's
so
brilliant.
It's not too long.
Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat. That was really interesting to hear and to kind of get your perspective on everything that you've gone through and you're doing at the moment. If people want to hear more about your work as it comes out in the future, is there a place that they should go? Twitter, Facebook?
Twitter. I have a Twitter.
There you go. What's your Twitter handle?
At Catwood79. Or I have a website that I always forget about, but I never update it, so don't go on that.
Don't go on. I think it says catwoods.com, isn't it, the website?
Yeah, it is Catwoods.
That you shouldn't go on. But there you go. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to throw it to Dan Leith, who's been doing reviews in a rabbit onesie. So this is the latest review in a rabbit onesie from Dan Leith.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reviews in a Rabbit Onesie, the show in which I, Dan Leith, review things in a rabbit onesie. Still don't have a theme tune. That's the theme for Terminator. That's right. In this episode, I will be reviewing 2 classic movies by James Cameron. Head to head. It's a camera off. No, it doesn't work. The Terminator. What a film. What a great film. What year? 1984. Good year. I wasn't born. It's a sci-fi classic. It's got everything you want, like time travel, killer robots, dogs. A great score. Launched the career of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton being a boss. Supporting cast, you have Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen. Wow, great. So yeah, the plot of The Terminator is that a cyborg is sent back from the future to kill a woman called Sarah Connor because she's going to the resistance leader of the human race after all of the machines take over. Then this other fella is sent back, a human this time, sexy Michael Biehn. A fella called Kyle Reese, and he's sent back to stop the robot cyborg from killing Sarah Connor. It still holds up. It is so exciting and tense and scary. Like that was my face during the movie. It's very 80s, but in a great way. Blue lightning, naked Arnold Schwarzenegger. If anyone could be the opposite of me naked, probably that. Or a woman. Walkman boogie and Walkman sexing. Tech noir. Class. Some of the effects haven't aged that well. Arnie Head kind of operating on himself. He looks very much like he's rubber. Stop motion machinery. Fucking, it doesn't matter. I mean, I still think it looks a lot better than CGI. Fuck CGI. I mean, it's emotional, it's sexy, it's scary, it's exciting. Perfect sci-fi action movie. That ending, I'm not going to spoil it for you. Apparently there's a storm coming. Who knew? What I learned from this movie is time travel consists of white light, pain, maybe like being born, maybe, who remembers being born, maybe, why would you say that, Reese? Weird. Time travel is confusing because the character of Reese has a flashback showing things that happen in the future, and Sarah Connor gets a bit annoyed because Reese keeps talking about things in the past tense that haven't even happened yet. Time travel. I think I learned that you shouldn't just demand clothes off punks in the street because they'll flip a knife on you. On the other side of that, though, if a naked man does demand your clothes, maybe best to give it to him. Wear layers. Layer up. Terminator. 5 out of 5 robots. Fucking class. Thank God there were only 2 Terminator movies. They could have gone to shit otherwise. Now moving on to our second film, 1986. That's right. It's Aliens. No, very different sort of aliens from the ones I talked about in Space Jam. Scary things with like two mouths, face huggers, yeah, if you haven't seen Aliens, then sort your shit out. I want to watch Alien first. Probably should. It's a good film as well. But we're here to talk about Aliens. Sigourney Weaver is back as Ripley, kick-ass woman in space. Nice. The supporting cast for this are incredible as well. Michael Biehn, Bill Paxton, Lance Henriksen. Did we already do this? So some of the same people are back, which is good because who can't get enough of sexy Michael Biehn? Michael Biehn. What a lad. So following on from the events in the first movie, Ripley is found drifting in space. It tells people all about the nasty alien that she met. No one believes her. It happens that the planet that she found the alien on in the first film is now terraformed. There's a colony of humans living there. She's like, oh shit. She and a bunch of Marines head down to the planet and there's aliens everywhere. Bill Paxton, he has some great lines in this film. Stop your grinning and drop your linen. Game over, man. Your dog meat, pal. If I had to fault this movie at all, it's the fact that there are different cuts of it, and some cuts have things that I think are vital, like the tragic story of Ripley's daughter growing old and dying because she was frozen for 57 years and she never made it back to her birthday party. That's cut out of the theatrical thing. So when Ripley meets a small child called Newt later on and becomes like the mother figure, like, okay, that's a bit much, she's not your kid. But with that backstory, you kind of understand why that bond happens and the way it happens. The theme of motherhood throughout this film is brilliant. It's very clever. In the director's cut, it takes about an hour before, stuff starts to happen. It's not an hour wasted. I think there's middle ground somewhere that they just didn't find. When the Marines get to the place where the aliens are at and shit's about to hit the fan, their like sergeant or whatever, he's just like, nobody touch nothing. That's really confusing. That's like a double negative. Does he want people to touch things? If people can't follow his orders, are they going to be court-martialed? I don't understand how military works. Or rules. Or relationships. Gone off the topic again. Scary moments like finding a woman alive, strapped to a wall and all sorts of goop, coming very quickly to a very unpleasant end. That scene where they're trapped in a room with a facehugger is still fucking terrifying. Paul Reiser plays Burke. Burke, you're a Burke. He knows it. One of the best assholes in a film ever. Beautiful asshole. Looks like I'm kissing him. When the aliens first appear, I think they show maybe a little too much. Sometimes it does seem like the aliens are just men in rubber suits. I'm nitpicking. Imagine if they made more than 2 alien movies and they got really shit and they used CGI. I mean, how awful would that fucking look? And I mean, if I'm nitpicking at that, the Queen alien, oh my god, what a beautiful creation, just outstanding. Hold on, I had to put this hat on to take it off for Stan Winston. Stan Winston knocking out of the park with those effects. It's a really exciting, terrifying film. You think it's over like 4 times and it just keeps coming in a good way, not like Lord of the Rings. Scary, exciting, sexy. So if you haven't seen Aliens, sort that shit out. 5 out of 5 Aliens. It's really hard for me to, I don't know why I did this because these are 2 bloody class movies. I don't want to choose. But at gunpoint, I'd say Terminator's better. It's shorter, it's more concise, and it's only got 1 cut. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dan Leith. If you disagreed with anything I said or want me to review anything else, then this was me typing a comment. I don't know why that wasn't clear. Stay safe, stay sane, watch the skies. You shouldn't be hugging anyone right now, but also don't let anything hug your face. Finn.
There you go. Thank you so much to Dan for reviews in a rabbit onesie. Dan chose Terminator over Aliens as his review. He preferred Terminator in a head-to-head. He gave them both 5 out of 5 for each, but chose Terminator? That, to me, that's just wrong. Aliens is so better.
As in the sequel?
Well, Aliens is a sequel and Terminator is obviously the original in its series. So, but yeah, it's still, Aliens is just better. Well, for me,
it's the best movie. It's the best Aliens movie as well.
I would agree.
It's definitely the best Aliens movie, though the first one has a lot, is pretty damn good and pretty damn scary. Whereas the second one's just kind of kick ass, but that's what James Cameron does. Thank you so much again to Cat Woods, and thank you to my co-hosts Tommy and Niall. Anything from you chaps as we round out this episode, as we end? We're going to end on a Marty song. As again, Marty couldn't be with us. So how did you enjoy that chat, guys?
I think it was great. Like every week we talk to, it's simultaneously very depressing and very heartening and very life-affirming, because you talk to these amazing artists who, they really struggle, but they produce amazing work. And just every week, life-affirming wins out just a bit, because it sounds like Kat's really inspiring. I was going to say that to her. If you're still out there, Kat, you're an inspiration. But yeah, it was great.
I think it's comforting as well to hear like other people that have similar experiences and similar stories to yourself, and have been able to have success at the same time. It makes it feel, especially right now, it makes it feel like there is sort of a community and we're all in this together, as they say.
Tommy, aren't you phoning us from your mansion in Fermanagh?
Oh yes, about I don't know what to say.
With his own personal bunker.
The backdrop just falls, and it's just like a swimming pool.
I was going to say, if we can wind this up so I can go for a swim in the heated indoor-outdoor pool.
Indoor-outdoor pool? An interdimensional pool?
Yeah, Tommy revealed the other day that he's got his own personal bunker, though it might be left over from possibly the 80s?
60s, I think. There's some of them which they've actually remade them, and you can go and visit them, because there's 6 all over Northern Ireland, and obviously the one it's on our neighbour's field, and it's filled with water and it's disgusting. But there's some of them around the country that they've actually renovated and made like a would have been, so you can actually go and visit them.
6 doesn't really seem enough for the population of Northern Ireland, even in the 60s.
I don't think it was for the whole population.
No, probably not.
Maybe it was a class thing as well.
Yeah.
As we've learned today.
Tommy, if you wanted, you could maybe, renovate the bunker, make it real nice, turn it into an arts institution for Fermanagh, and maybe you could call it, the bunker. Actually, that's really sad because the joke relies on an arts institution being closed down and the new arts institution being underground. Like, we've had to go under. I was thinking of Morlocks when I was talking about the Battle Royale. We've been hardened by a difficult life, but we will win out.
Radioactive energy.
Yep.
Brilliant.
It all comes back to Fallout. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Like always, if anyone wants to come on, if anyone wants to be interviewed, or just come on and have a chat, or be in the chat room for comments, and please do. Just get in contact on Facebook or on email, info@accidentaltheatre.co.uk. We are very open to anyone wanting to come on, be interviewed, or just be here to ask questions like our Zoom panel. Next week we do have Keelan Curry Thompson on from the Arts Council to chat about the help that's out there and accessing it. We also have is it Brona on next week, Tommy?
Yes, I will confirm that with her, but at the minute, yes.
Yeah, so Brona who's the producer at the Lyric Theatre. I'm looking at Tommy so he can nod at me.
Yes,
I can't remember Brona's exact title, so I wanted to make sure I had that right. And we'll have more and more people every week as we continue during the lockdown, and if we fancy it, maybe continue beyond if people are watching. Who knows? Thank you so much. Marty is going to play us out with a track he made on the 26th of April. So here we go. Please support Marty and Dan, who both made stuff for us today. Their PayPal addresses were on the screen. Dan's piece is episode 3 of Reviews in Rebel Onesie. Will also be on Facebook and YouTube later today as individual episodes, or you can rewind. Also, thanks to Yellow Crane Tai Chi, who opened this up as always. Please give them support or a like or a follow as well. All 3. Yeah, just do it all. Might as well. We've got time. Thank you so much to everyone, and here you go, Marty, play us out.